If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, and you are listening to the Idaho Murders case series. This is part 10, The Other Suspects. So, since the arrest of Kohberger, it seems less and less people are actually thinking logically. A lot of the masses that just believe whatever they see on the idiot box just have already taken it as gospel that Kohberger must not only be guilty, but he must have acted alone because he's the only one arrested. And obviously cops never make mistakes, and there's no such thing as corruption, so therefore he's guilty. I mean, a lot of these goofs are all over the comment sections. Now, even if he is, wouldn't you want that verified instead of hallucinating that based on nothing and not using any logic or reason? But that's what the Mindshock podcast is for. And we will be going over the other DNA samples, coincidentally not Kohberger's. Not a single one Kohberger's of these other samples. And we will be going over the sheath as well, and many other issues related, of course, to the Elantra. Kohberger's, of course, the wrong year and body style. But, I mean, just the endless list of coincidences here. I mean, again, what the goofs failed to realize. There's countless cases where there's no funny business, no anomalies, no coincidences. That's why nobody's talking about them, because they clearly got the right guy, and there's nothing to discuss. But in the cases that there is, the coincidence theorists and these gullible goofs, for whatever reason, they get triggered at any kind of logic or reason being applied to these cases. It's really, really bizarre. As always, if you want to help support the Mindshock podcast, help logic and reason return to a world where it is quickly going extinct, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast requests. You can also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel, of course. And enable notifications if you're still not getting them. Just like and comment on more videos. That's how the YouTube algorithm works. And make sure to subscribe to the Bruce McGuire channel as well. I'll be uploading a lot of stuff there also. So let's jump right in here. Let's start off with none other than the We the People Twitter account. Now, this individual does a lot of really good research into this particular case. They post about a bunch of other stuff too, but just really, really solid info. Let's look at the 3 other male DNA samples found at the scene that nobody wants to talk about. So this is actually from the objection to the state's motion for a protective order. And this is from page 2, factual background, November 13th, 2022. Law enforcement responding to a 911 call found Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernadel, and Ethan Chapman deceased. Law enforcement later found a K-bar knife sheath placed next to Miss Mogen on her bed. The sheath was placed button side down and partially under Miss Mogen and the comforter. That's kind of weird. How would it get there? The sheath was, November 20th, 2022, the Idaho State Police Lab in Meridian, Idaho, located DNA on the button of the sheath and performed STR analysis that led nowhere when ran through CODIS, other than to show the provider was a male. November 17th, 2022, lab analysts were aware of 2 additional males' DNA within the house where the deceased were located, and another unknown male on a glove found outside the residence, November 20th, 2022. To this date, the defense is unaware what sort of testing, if any, was conducted on these samples other than the STR DNA profiles. Further, these 3 separate and distinct male DNA profiles were not identified through CODIS, leading to the conclusion that the profiles did not belong to Mr. Kohberger. While this was ongoing, police were investigating many various suspects. Many of them provided DNA. At least one had DNA surreptitiously taken from a discarded cigarette. Many also had their phones taken and downloaded. One area of the investigation had to do with a white sedan seen on camera located at 1112 King Road. First glimpsed by officers November 18th, 2022. By November 25th, 2022, police believed the car to be a white Elantra and asked law enforcement to be on the lookout for one. Precisely how the police came to believe the car was an Elantra is still unknown. A report from an analyst for the FBI dated March 21st, 2023 shows the analyst relying heavily on a video of a car heading the wrong direction and at the wrong time on Ridge Road. So again, I mean, there's Ring cameras, there's other cameras, whatever, but the official police statement released by police had the wrong year, wrong body style for the Elantra that Kohberger, compared to the Elantra Kohberger owned, which coincidentally was provided by the private driver that drove the girls home that day, that night. What a coincidence. Supposedly the driver also lives by Kohberger, and so does the DoorDash driver. So again, if you haven't checked out the previous episodes, check them out. I'm not going to go into all of that coincidence stack, but the other weird thing that people are talking about here is that there was a 12-hour delay before the officer saw it at 4 p.m. that afternoon. So was the sheath not there? So again, there's a lot of issues here. Did Kohberger return to the scene? Did other people return to the scene? Did Kohberger return or come to the scene not have been guilty? But either way, was the sheath... So here's something, again, the coincidence theorist too mentally brain dead to consider. Was the sheath not even there immediately after the crime, and it was placed there later by a different individual? Now again, this doesn't mean Kohberger's innocent, doesn't mean he's guilty. But what's the deal with the sheath? There's just something weird about the sheath. I mean, it's just weird. And again, for the people that think that corrupt police are involved, did a police officer place the sheath there? I mean, I don't know. That's kind of weird. So at the time of this document, the defense has not been made aware whether the other DNA of the 3 other males was ever really tested. You would think if either of these 3 samples matched Kohberger, there would have been some kind of hoopla about it. Now, obviously, just because there's other DNA there, that doesn't mean that those individuals were involved in the crime. Obviously, this is a party house, but it's just curious that, I mean, how much investigative work was actually done here? Or was Kohberger set up as a patsy? And we'll be getting into that theory in a moment as well. Although, it actually... I mean, it is kind of curious, though, that Kohberger... If Kohberger's this great genius... He leaves his DNA on the sheath, but there's 0 DNA of the victims in his car, apartment, office, or anywhere else. That's kind of weird. That's a little weird. So let's get to the weirder stuff with Kohberger. So some allege, of course, that Kohberger was a CI that was thrown under the bus and used as a patsy. Possibly he uncovered something about this police department that is under investigation by Internal Affairs. So, apparently Brian actually applied at the Pullman Police Department. So, there's not really any information on whether he even got the job. But again, what we went over before at the university, that there was some kind of access from these PhD criminology students to law enforcement databases and such. I mean, that's kind of sketch. What did he find something about corruption, possible drug running or otherwise, within this police department that's being investigated by Internal Affairs for whatever reasons? And Brian apparently also focused on cloud-based forensics. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So here's another curiosity from all these documents. We, the people here, stating that they could not find any evidence directly from Moscow police that the DoorDash driver was cleared. Also, supposedly, there's confusion as to whether or not the DoorDash driver was there during the time of the crimes. So, from other documents here, DM and BF both made statements during interviews that indicated the occupants of the King Road residence were at home by 2 a.m. and asleep or at least in their rooms by approximately 4 a.m. This is with the exception of Kernodle, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. Law enforcement ID'd the DoorDash delivery driver who reported this information. So the driver placed themselves at the residence at exactly 4 a.m. So does that mean, like, what? This is really tough. This timeline is getting more and more problematic. So Kernodle receives the DoorDash delivery at 4 a.m. How long after that is she killed? So the driver, now if the driver said they were there at 4 a.m., theoretically this would be verified, right? Phone pings, whatever, app in the vehicle, and again, the ring cameras, all the other footage of the path of the DoorDash driver's car. So theoretically this would all be known and verified. Also, we the people brought to light that Moscow Police Department has acted shady in the past, so apparently they've suppressed body cam footage in other cases. And yeah, that's kind of weird. I mean, there's some articles here going back 2021, previous year. Moscow, this is right from MoscowIdaho.news. Moscow PD buries evidence in sticker case for more than a year. The Soviet Moscow sticker case. 3 charged with 13 misdemeanors for posting stickers on city poles. Okay, that's kind of weird. We're not going to get into that. But just, again, there's a history of shadiness with this police department that is being investigated by Internal Affairs. And again, supposedly there might be a connection with Kopaka and one of these other officers, rookie officers in charge of the case. If you haven't checked out the previous episode, again, check that out. But this was just really, really weird with all of these individuals. There's all these Brady violations. I mean, this is just really weird. We the People also posted this. Interesting how law enforcement threw Dylan under the bus in the PCA. Never redacted her name. I wonder if she said she was sleeping until a device told police she wasn't. I don't think Dylan trusted the police. I don't think they trust her. And again, if there is some kind of widespread police corruption here, and if that was a drug house and there's all this overlap, I mean, everything is pretty weird. What's weird, so there's actually been some conflicting information. In the previous episode, I went over a few posts from various social media that supposedly the DoorDash delivery individual was a female. But supposedly Bethany told police that Xana got food delivered by a delivery guy that came to the door at 4. That's all I know. Police said the delivery guy was there. Okay. So, did she kind of just say delivery guy not knowing if it was, just assuming it was a guy? I mean, how many DoorDash drivers are female? I don't know. What's the distribution, especially in that area? I mean, in other areas, there's definitely a lot of female DoorDash drivers, but in this particular area at 4 a.m., is there a history of female drivers, or is it predominantly males? Other responses here. At first, it was stated the delivery driver was a young girl, but I believe this was a ruse. Yeah, so, okay, there's conflicting information. We do not have it verified whether or not. Also, yeah, this is tough as well. Apparently, it was said that it was a female with dark hair. And of course, there's other insinuations that that DoorDash was also some kind of the DoorDash delivery drivers were also delivering drugs. As such, some people allege this is going on in many different places. We the People also posted this. If you wear gloves to commit a crime, how does your touch DNA end up on a sheath snap? Don't you only push the snap down when you're putting the knife back in it and pull on the leather to get the knife out? A vegan with leather dot dot dot. MJ's Love is Magic One responded, not just that, but who isn't wearing a knife sheath on their belt as it is designed to be worn for ease of use of the knife? That sheath screams plant. No DNA from multiple victims in a bloodbath, lying on the bed, not seen on a first pass, makes no sense. There's no direct evidence. I mean, the more you look at this, the more it seems possible that the sheath wasn't even there in the aftermath of the crime, and it was placed there later either by other individuals or possibly even by a police officer if there's corruption going on. Again, I'm not claiming there is or there isn't for the Dunning-Kruger crowd. This is Mindshock. I'm not claiming anything is true or untrue. If you weren't there, you don't know. So otherwise, it's just hallucinating and pretending to know, which only clueless goofs would do. We the People also posted this. There's no regarding Koberger. There's no motive. There's no confession. There's no murder weapon. There's no license plate on camera, unless there is, and we don't know that. There's no real touch. There's no real DNA. Touch DNA, skin cells cannot be used to convict. I'm not sure about that, but whatever. There's no proof that there's more evidence. Also, I mean, unknown either way. There's no criminal history. All I know is there's reasonable doubt so far. My opinion could change. Koberger's Pennsylvania attorney said that touch DNA can be transferred from one human to another and can last on an item up to a year. If that's the case, I'm sure they'll have the expert testify to that. But even if it's not a year, even if it's, let's say, 2 days, does that prove he did this crime? Okay, so here's a comment from the Mindshock listener, Gary. It appears that Brent Kopaka and 2 other individuals that he names here, I'm not going to name them, I don't know if their names were released, were in that house at the time from the neighbor's audio. And exactly how much audio they have is also a curiosity. So one of these individuals lived directly south and up the hill about 500 feet. Brian gave Brent a ride to the house but didn't go inside. It's doubtful Brian would have known what was about to take place. He had no need to know. Looking at the body cam from that night, I counted 4 figures moving in the background. Apparently Brian wasn't one of them. The cam footage has been altered from that was previously released. They've combined both cop cameras so that when they cut to the second cam, the figures are out of frame. Why? Brent Kopaka's roommates were right about his involvement, and his reaction would fit for a PTSD or being accused. Chief Fry and Payne were in Pullman when the swatting was going on. Out of state, out of jurisdiction. Kopaka and the Payne brothers were all 82nd Airborne. Connections, question mark. What Maddie told Adam was that she flushed $275,000 worth of drugs. Adam made a call. Xana may have been providing information as part of a deal for her mother, who was facing her own drug charges. Kara Kernodle was sentenced June 21st probation. Some may have suggested that Brian believed he was doing undercover work for law enforcement, who became a convenient patsy. Oddly enough, there are a lot of parallels here with the Lee Oswald situation, and that's a very, very dark theory indeed. I don't know how much of that is true. Again, this is Mindshock. I do not claim anything is true or untrue. The only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. Now, supposedly, some are claiming it is for sure that it was a party house, and it is for sure that there was some kind of flow of drugs, not necessarily, obviously, confirmed on who was involved in the flow, but there was some kind of flow with some people, whether they were the people that lived there or not, whatever the case may be. I mean, I postulated this in the earlier episodes that wouldn't it be more plausible that people that didn't live there were using it for drug flow, etc., because it would be less likely that they would be implicated, but who knows? Everything else is rumor here. And others are also chiming in that they believe Officer Payne is somehow involved. Some are also saying that some of these suspicious deaths around campus are also possibly connected to a drug situation or some kind of police corruption situation, and other, not just mysterious, not just strange deaths, ODs, in quotation suicides, but just the amount of strange deaths in the area. If the police don't classify them as murders, even if they were, then obviously it would appear that the town is much safer than it is. But yeah, some really damning situations here. Now, another poster, Little Ape 418, posted this. Here's a strange one. Also on the Mindshock podcast, episode 9, Brent Kopaka. So, Little Ape 418 posted this. Here's a strange one. Before Kaylee was even in college, she was at a Walmart in Moscow with Jack. She called the police because she recognized a woman that they were missing posters up for. She gave the officer 1122 King Road as her home address, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. She was a few years away from starting her freshman year. What's up with that one? Very curious. So I don't see a source here, but if that's true, what does everybody make of this? I mean, is this just moving into some kind of PSYOP realm? And again, for the Dunning-Kruger crowd, PSYOP does not mean these people weren't real, does not mean they weren't killed. It simply means that there's some kind of psychological operation around all of these real people and real deaths, or any combination thereof. Again, the coincidence theorists are just so easily triggered by all this. Carol Stanhope, who's on YouTube, she has shared her story, human trafficking survivor, and she apparently, if this is her or somebody with her name, was in the chat on Mindshock as well on episode 9. In the live chat, she posted, Jack's parents ushered him back to Africa right after the incidents. She also said they crossed a cartel, most likely. This is a tragic product of unsupervised off-campus housing. Criminals hide out in small hamlets. Okay, so is there a cartel involved, or is the police basically, are the police operating as the cartel in this area, or are they operating in conjunction with a cartel and there's some kind of weird situation here? Is it coincidental that Xana's mother is involved in drugs and has some kind of charges as well? Is that all coincidental? I don't know. I'm not claiming anything is true or untrue. Amy in the live chat also posted some curiosities here. I heard they found Maddie's black sweater jacket in the field across from the house. Also, a female filmed running from the house at 2 a.m. and 4 people seen behind the cops in the field with kids. I'm assuming this is relating to the body cam footage. She also stated the sororities played nasty jokes on each other. Lazarus commented, yeah, check out the sororities one Barbara Bush belonged to, another a bunch of CIA covert agents, senators, congressmen, etc. Yeah, I mean, we kind of went over a lot of the sorority insanity, and again, the victims belong to 2 out of 10 sororities, the only 2 out of the 10 on probation for whatever reasons. Again, the coincidence theorists scoff at that, but what are the chances that the only 2 that they belong to, or at least at one point, did they get kicked out for whatever? I mean, who knows? What is going on with all this running going on? Is there a female involved in their deaths? And these 3 other males, is Koberger not even directly involved? Was he really set up as a patsy? So maybe he was there, but he didn't know this happened. I actually brought this up in one of the McGuire theories that maybe some of the fraternity guys were kind of using him, planning to set him up, et cetera, without his knowledge and kind of made him think it was just a prank or whatever. And if they're all kind of doing drugs, who knows? Again, I'm not claiming anything is true or untrue. Two more points here that I wanted to go over. We the People also has an image here. Remember the dog that was killed a month before the crime? Remember the picture Brent Kopaka's friend put up of Brent's machete? Look for the blue collar. Credit goes to Crime Circus. So, okay, so there's some kind of, it kind of looks like the blue collar on the dog, from the dog that was killed. I can't tell, though. It could just be a blue bow. It's really hard to tell. I can't tell. But that's weird. How many different connections are there here? How many of the killed coyotes or any of these other animal killings going on in the area? I mean, there's so much shady business going on in this area. I mean, it's basically unfathomable that just all of this is completely unrelated. I mean, that's kind of, maybe it's not. Again, I'm not claiming anything is true or untrue. I just find it kind of strange, kind of strange. Here's the final point here. Some people brought this up. There was an abandoned crashed car in Eugene, Oregon, receiving attention, posted December 20th, 22. This is on KVAL.com, KVAL 13 News. Investigators are aware of a Hyundai Elantra located in Eugene, Oregon, and have spoken with the owner. The Moscow Police Department said the vehicle was involved in a collision and subsequently impounded. The vehicle is registered out of Colorado, and the female owner is not believed to have any relation to any property in Moscow, Idaho, or the ongoing murder investigations. The public is asked to stop contacting the owner. What's raising eyebrows is that the car, a white Hyundai Elantra, and is this the year and body style that matches what the police put out, unlike Koberger's vehicle, is the same type of vehicle police in Moscow, Idaho are looking for in connection with last month's murder of 4 college students. That's kind of weird. Eugene police were initially made aware of the car over the weekend when they received a call saying that a person was sleeping inside the vehicle. EPD says the car has been involved in a job injury crash earlier in the week, December 15th, and was left on Seneca Road after involved parties exchanged information. Our station reached out to the Eugene Police Department for comment. EPD responded, "We have no information to indicate it is related to Moscow, Idaho. We sent the vehicle information to Moscow, Idaho, so they have it in review." In a press release, Moscow Police stated, quote, "Investigators are aware of a Hyundai Elantra located in Eugene, Oregon. We are working with local jurisdiction to determine if the vehicle is related to our case." Moscow Police say they have identified over 22,000 vehicles, matching the description of the one sought in the case. So are there 22,000 vehicles with the exact year and body style that they claimed they were looking for, which Koberger's is not part of one of those 22,000? The crashed car in Eugene was towed away Tuesday afternoon. It's important to note right now investigators are looking for a lot of different tips. Moscow Police Chief James Fry gave an update earlier Tuesday. Okay. So what does everybody make of this particular vehicle? I mean, it would kind of make sense that they would want to get it out of Dodge. Yeah, I mean, it's really tough because people directly to the case, connected to the case, supposedly also have white Elantras. And I know we were supposed to get to Enon Hirsch, whatever his name is. We'll be getting to him in the next episode. I just wanted to go over these curiosities in the documentation and all these other initial rumors. Now, obviously, in a lot of these cases, initial rumors do turn out to be true. Not necessarily all of them, but possibly some of them. So what does everybody make of all of this information thus far? And I mean, it's just weird. Again, just the silence on Kopaka is just so deafening. And the possible connections to Koberger. And then all of these other individuals who might have just happened to be at that house that particular night. I mean, supposedly there's no party going on, right? I mean, that's quite a lot of individuals to have been at that house when there was no party going on in the early morning hours. Possibly this crime occurring after 4 a.m.? Or even in the presence of the DoorDash driver? I mean, all of this is so mind-shocking, the timeline doesn't make any sense. Obviously, nothing with the police makes sense in this department that's being investigated by IA. I mean, it's just all really weird. It's all really weird. I mean, plenty more to cover, plenty more to go over, which we will be doing. So, hope everybody found another edition of Mindshock True Crime interesting and informative. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. You can also become a member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. And also check out my Bruce McGuire channel. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.